Hey dog people, if you've been training dogs for a while now, but you don't know how to organize your notes without spending a ton of money on a paid platform, I have a brand new free client tracking tool for dog trainers. If you want to feel like the polished professional that you know you are, this could be exactly what your dog business needs to level up and seriously cut down on admin time this year. You can download this free tool at www.thedogbiznerd.com/tracking or click the link in the show notes. Welcome to Dog Training Bytes. The show where canine professionals share their key takeaways, big aha moments, and hardest lessons learned from working with dogs. I'm Mattison, certified dog trainer and behavior consultant, and dogs are my life. Every day I get to coach guardians and other trainers into a deeper understanding of canine behavior. But let's face it, sometimes dog training really bites. And that's okay, because when it does, we learn a lot. This podcast is all about sharing the lessons learned from experience, because the stories of when it got tough or when we made a mistake, that's when we learn the lessons worth learning. And it's time we share those with the world. I'll be talking to dog trainers and other pet professionals about times that working with dogs, well, bit. Not literally. Maybe literally. What's most important here on this show, what did they walk away with? What did they learn? How did it shape their approach today? Welcome to Dog Training Bytes, the show where pet professionals share personal lessons that you won't find in any textbook. Today, I'm speaking with Jacqueline Benita Paul. Jacqueline, trainer at Patty Pawsitive and the first IAABC-certified dog trainer in Malaysia, has quickly established herself as a trailblazer in her field. She is a certified canine first aid responder and has provided professional pet services to over 200 cats and dogs since 2022, earning a reputation for her compassionate and knowledgeable approach. Specializing in local mixed breeds and rescues, Jacqueline excels at helping millennial dog owners understand their complex canine companions. I had the absolute honor of having Jacqueline in my one-to-one canine behavior mentorship last year, and it was clear from the start that she is dedicated to empowering pet owners with the skills and confidence that they need to succeed long-term. Hi, Jacqueline. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Mattison, and wow, what an introduction. I'm already feeling so much energy just from that introduction. That's amazing. Thank you so much for that.
You are easy to hype up. I think that you are just such a shining example of the new trainer that's coming up right now, and it makes me just feel really lucky to be a part of your journey. And I'm super excited to hear what you brought for us today. But first, I want you to tell the dog people out there about your personal dogs.
All right. So, first dog is Zena, and both my dogs are rescued, adopted. And the first dog that I had, my husband likes to say that first dog is the startup employee that didn't have a JD. So, to put it into perspective, at that time, we were like, okay, at first, I wanted a male dog. I wanted a dog and I wanted a dog that seemed to be well socialized. So Zena was actually introduced to me by a friend who was running a pet shop that sells treats and toys. And so she was friends with an NGO who happened to be there. And I was introduced to Zena. And it was so interesting because I looked at her and I thought, oh, this dog was so social. And apparently, she had been in that pet hotel for 7 months. Nobody adopted her.
Wow.
She had been at several adoption drives, and she was actually found by the rescuer underneath a car during a thunderstorm. So I did not expect her to have any major issues when I met her. She had a very good first impression, just rolling on her back, showing belly. My only concern was that she was going to be too friendly to everybody because I wanted a dog that was a little hard to get. Obviously, this was a time where I was very new to even dog training. I was in the middle of a transition at that time between being a pet sitter and going into dog training. So when I looked at Zena, I thought to myself, I'm a dog mom first. I'm not going to be thinking as a trainer. I'm going to think as a dog mom. Okay, like I said, my husband said this was the startup hire that we had no criteria for.
Right.
So Zina came home and we discovered painfully that she had so many issues. The number one issue being that she has a thunder fear that I, until today, have not seen in any other dog that I have
Mm.
had the privilege to work with. Her thunder issue is so bad that she does vomit after a thunder occurrence.
Yeah.
And so this made me go into deep research about thunder phobias, and I never thought I would be that trainer. She forced me to be that trainer.
Yep.
I never expected to be dealing at an issue with this gravity. And it took me a year before she finally stops vomiting after a thunder episode. It took me a year of research, a year of training, trial and errors, because I was painfully unequipped to deal with that. And on top of that, she also had resource studying. She also had reactivity towards dogs, cats, and people. So
She
we
came with
managed
a
to,
lot of lessons for you.
oh, for sure, for sure. And she was not food motivated. And that was
Mm,
something that really added value with my clients, because turns out many dogs that need training are not food motivated. Apparently, until I go there for a consult and we figure things out, and then we find out, okay, you just didn't build the drive or many other different factors. But Zena really pushed me in terms
mm,
of my capabilities as a trainer.
yeah.
But then I have my second trait, okay? Both named after warriors. Ironically, we thought that if you named your dog after warriors, they'd be nice and brave. Zena is brave. She's overcome a lot. She's
Yeah.
really come a long way. And then we have Kratos. And I only said to the fosterer, Kratos cannot have thunder fear. I can't do that again.
I can't go through that again.
I really can't. He can be aggressive. He can be anything else, any other problem. I just cannot take another thunder or firework fearing dog. I really can't.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sound
because she
sensitivity
needs
is
me.
tough. Right.
It's so tough. It's I really did. If I hear from other podcasts or other people like talking about sound sensitivity, but going through it yourself and watching your dog, like you, the thunder happened maybe at 3 p.m. And then at 3 a.m., I'm here.
Oh,
And it's so traumatizing to today. I hear that sound. You know, when Kratos came in, and I immediately, because Kratos came in as a puppy, Zena as an adult, right? So, puppy, I
right.
did everything, because this is when Zena really trained me for this moment. I'm going to desensitize the heck out of this boy. I'm going to build some independence. And he did. He's an amazing dog. Honestly, if I had Kratos as the first dog, I could not be the trainer that I am today, because I would think
Mm.
it's the easier part,
He didn't
because
come
he's
with the
just,
lessons that
he
that
did
Xena
not.
came with. She prepared
No,
you for
she
him.
prepared me to be a trainer. Kratos
Yeah.
prepared me to be a mother.
Oh, that was beautiful.
That's why I would say really Patty Positive is honestly a brainchild of my two dogs. It's not about me. It's about the two of
Yeah.
them and how they shape me as a person to be
Mhm.
of service to every client and dog that I'm providing that service for. So
And I'm seeing
Kratos,
that you are out there helping people, and I can see where these lessons are helping you meet people where they're at. Like, I love the fact that Xena, as much as I'm sure it was very frustrating, I love that she brought with her a complex relationship with food, because I think that's something that a lot of guardians and also trainers might see that as like a huge roadblock, because it is, right? It sure can be. So I think having that as a challenge that you've already got under your belt it's a big deal.
yes, and honestly, she makes a lot of my clients look like a walk in the park. Because so a lot of my clients, because I think in Malaysia, being the first IAABC certified trainer, I find that a lot of my clients are not able to access even the most basic positive dog training methods. When they go onto Google, the first thing that they're finding is your dog digs a hole, put vinegar in the ground.
Mm,
And they're finding all this as the first few searches. So they're not going into Google saying positive ways to fix this problem. They're just saying fix this problem.
mhm.
And
And
that's
when
the
we're focusing
mindset.
on the issue or the problem, what we're going to see in those results is corrective approaches. Because when we're problem focused, we're not exactly really looking for solutions for a new behavior. We're looking how to stop an old one, and that's incomplete at best.
It's incomplete, it's not sustainable, because all I want with my clients when they come for training with me is to be able to achieve that result long term. In fact, one of my clients that I worked with for a very long time. She's an Austrian expat and she has this Labrador, her first family dog. And it was interesting that once they really did all their basic training here, she just wanted to set them both up for success. They wanted to do loose leash training. She had 3 kids to ensure that everybody is just making sure that they respect their dog and their dog understands how the household is worked around. Okay. So it was interesting that when they moved to Austria, and I did prepare her mentally to tell her that there may be some behavior changes, okay?
Yeah.
Because it's a different climate, it's a different environment, there's way more freedom there compared to Malaysia. Malaysia is very strict on leash laws, and even if you're wearing a leash, there's a huge stigma on even being a big dog owner here. And Labradors are considered big dogs here.
Yeah.
Any dog above 10 kgs is a big dog in Malaysia. And with that comes the stigma of any dog that's above 10 kgs may bite. Whereas they are not thinking about any dog that has teeth will bite me. And any dog that bites me is excreting cortisol that is shortening their lifespan. But that is a journey that as a doctor I take. Before I deviate, so my client, when she went to Austria and all the training that we did together, because I can't be there, right? And I can be a virtual trainer, but what happened was she was able to troubleshoot most of the issues by herself because I've been able to get on the same page with her from the start to end of the entire process. And how was she able to even scale back, pull back certain trainings and her expectation when her dog is in that new environment. So this is where I find it's so crucial for owners to be really aware and be part of that journey and to have a sustainable solution instead of putting vinegar in the hole, which can also potentially endanger that dog's life.
Yeah.
And the environment, you know?
Yeah. It's such a challenge, but it's something that we bump up against and brush up against over and over again. And each time it gets a little bit easier to find ways to empower that human and give them the skills and the tools to, like you said, troubleshoot on their own. I say to my clients all the time, my goal is that you never have to hire another trainer again. If you were to encounter this exact same behavior with your next dog, you wouldn't need me or anybody because you would be like, oh, I've got this. I already know what to do. I already know how to work through this. I am excited to hear what is the story that you brought for us today.
All right. Let me tell you the story of Brownie. When I met Brownie, Brownie was a 6-month-old toy poodle. And Brownie made me realize how important genetics plays in behavior.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I had never encountered a dog at 6 months old with such a aggression towards people. The way Brownie reacted when I met him the first few times and even seeing him around other people, the only person that he wasn't aggressive to was his own owner, who was this like 30-year-old man, and he has young children. And apparently Brownie has been behaving very aggressively with the children as well. And he was so confused as to why this poodle that he bought, most likely from a puppy mill, because I did ask him, where did he get his dog? Did he check with the parents and those things? And he told me that the breeder did invite him to come to another state. Penang is about 2-hour drive to see the parents. And I did tell him that he should have seen the parents because then it would have actually created a proper expectation. And there has to be those testings, right? To make sure that the dog that you get, temperament-wise, has been proven to be a suitable temperament for your household.
Yeah, especially with young children.
Especially with young children. And unfortunately, even for dog training standards here, I had to follow Singapore government's regulation because Malaysia has no standards for dog training. There is no requirement. Like anyone can call themselves a dog trainer tomorrow. They don't even have to do a Coursera, right? And you just imagine those standards is lower in the breeding community. And so when I met Brownie, I actually straight up told my business partner, who is a pet hotel owner, that I can't take this case because this was before I was doing my IAABCs. And I said to her that it seems to me this dog will need medication. So Brownie refused every treat you can think of. I gave him lamb, I gave him pork, we did the fasting, we did everything. And Brownie just refused. And I didn't want to take this owner's money when I wasn't sure that I could succeed in his case. So what happened was my business partner knew that I was starting a group class. And because this group class would be so new, I barely set any criteria. So she signed him up.
Oh, goodness.
And I said, okay, but I did say I'm not doing behavior modification. This is just a standard group class. And it's a 10-week class. And Brownie and his owner has been coming to the class they're the best at attendance among all my other students. They were like always attending every class. And every class, up to the 8th class, they were just on the sidelines watching because Brownie just kept reacting the entire time. And I felt so bad. And I had to tell him to please go to a corner where Brownie didn't have his reactions anymore because it was stressing him out. And it was also stressing the rest of the class. But more importantly, I was concerned about Brownie's welfare.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I felt compelled to help the owner, even though this was not a one-on-one class. I can't ignore them.
Yeah.
So there was one time where everyone in the class was so busy and it was just me and the owner. It became a one-on-one class all of a sudden. And the owner, who has been listening to me week after week, testing out different treats and doing the training at home, actually came. And it was interesting because this was the first time Brownie ate treats outdoors.
Okay.
So on the 8th class, and I said, okay, interesting, okay, good. And then on the last class, there were 2 people who passed the class. So there's like a basic cues that they have to do to just pass the class. And it's very simple. But the bar is still set. They still have to be able to achieve the commands. And I was not sure if Brownie could do it. And beside Brownie was this dachshund that was a superstar this whole time, right? So I felt really for the owner, but I have to hide it. Oh my God, Brownie did it. Brownie obeyed every cue when Brownie was not listening this entire time. And I said to myself, wow, I really need to up my game as a trainer because I need to help them. People like this who are so dedicated to come week after week, even though I said no because I was not sure of my ability to help, but I did recommend a veterinary behaviorist. That was before I met you, Mattison. I felt okay. However, I still think that Brownie would benefit from anxiety medication because the case is extremely severe. But it was so inspiring. And it's things like this that drove me to join your mentorship because I wanted to know how I could do better for my clients. And your mentorship taught me about even like the different systems like the Jack Penske emotional, what we call it?
Just those emotional systems. Yeah.
Yeah, the emotional system. And when I looked at that, and then I looked at it, really was a huge game changer from how I approach training. And I felt, okay, if I had known that and all the other things that you taught in your mentorship, I probably could have tried to help Brownie one. But now I think Brownie is already getting that good momentum post group class. And I told the owner, you keep going, I'm here if you need me. And I really felt like there were so many lessons there. And it's also that I have to look at the dog and the owner in front of me, see what their dedication is, and then also just constantly improving myself so that I can meet them and their goals. Anyways, and it all worked out for them.
There are so many lessons here. Like you said, this is such a good case. And like you identified, there are going to be times where a dog crosses our path where we say, I don't actually feel confident that I can get you to the result, the end result that you're looking for. And there is a huge ethical responsibility for us as professionals to be honest and transparent. That is really important. However, I think this is also a good example that we don't actually always need to be able to get somebody to the finish line to be able to change their lives. Because Brownie needed to take that first step. And even though on the outside, watching them show up week after week for 8 weeks, not eating, not training, not being able to do anything in that environment, it would look like nothing was happening, like nothing was moving forward, like it wasn't working. But it was. And each of those days showing up and experiencing it, even leaving feeling like maybe that didn't go like I wanted, maybe feeling like that was a failure, it wasn't. Because each of those days where Brownie couldn't eat led Brownie to a day where Brownie could eat and perform and focus.
Perform.
There's so much here. So I think that It's almost like two opposite lessons, right? Of being able
Yeah,
to not bow out, because that's not what this is
yeah,
about. This is about being honest and saying, I can't
yes,
get you here. I don't know how to do that, but I can get you here. And you actually have to get here if you want to get there.
for sure. And I think you put it so accurately. It's that, and I couldn't find the words to articulate that. So thank you for that. So it was really that. It was a very humbling experience to realize, hey, maybe I need to just not think about the end game here and just help them through at least the beginning part, just the foundational part. So I'm really glad my business partner really pushed it on me.
Sometimes people
I'm
do
sure
for
she's gonna
us what we
hear this and be
cannot
like,
do
yeah,
for ourselves.
for sure, for sure. And yeah, more interesting stories about her and that later.
I would love to chat more about that. But yeah, is there any other like lasting lesson that you walked away? Like when does Brownie and this experience show up in your training today?
I would say that it shows up in the way that I looked at the first cases, especially the forms that I create as like the evaluation forms and also the first meeting. I'm more open-minded now compared
Mm,
to before. I think Brownie plus Zena, they really make me feel like you're not allowed to get comfortable. Don't
mm,
stay in your comfort zone. Dogs
right.
need you to be more flexible and open-minded. And that's the
Absolutely.
key word. So as much as I do mainly focus on positive, I also, as an IABC ADT certified trainer, I follow Lima standard where if needed, we go through the flow chart, but we have to work with the dog in front of us. And based on just going through those different
Stages.
progressions,
Yeah.
stages. Yeah. And I would say Brownie also taught me a lot about building skill sets that you really can't just go out there expecting, okay, obey. And you can't just tug a leash and say, obey, because this is what the standard of training is here, which this is what is my personal mission to change. And I think this is something I learned from you as well in our mentorship. You mentioned this before, where we need to teach those skills before we go out. So,
Mhm.
for example, teaching loose leash skills, right? With Brownie, you want to get that loose leash, you got to teach the cues, the heel cues, staying close cues, and then go sniff cues. You got to reward accordingly, and you got to build that up at home. You got to build up in your porch. You got to warm up first before the walk, And so this is something that this experience really taught me, which is you have to quantify everything. You have to I even created a glossary recently. So yeah, because I wanted to make sure that everything becomes crystal clear in a system that will work. And Brownie is always on my mind when I'm working on these things, especially when I'm meeting a new reactive dog case. Or so far, I have not really come across aggression as high level as Brownie, because Brownie, it was not just lunging, it was snarling, it was and shivering, and it was a lot for such
Yeah.
a small dog. And that's the other thing, which is the other lesson here is the genetics, right? This is what made me look into that rat experiment that they had, where the mother rat was pregnant and was put under stress, and that stress was tested that it went into the
Yeah.
litter. And I believe Brownie was a victim of that,
Mm.
because there is no way at 6 months old, Brownie just woke up and chose violence to the rest of the earth.
And there was no learning history or trauma or anything. So we
No.
really do look at genetics and how that plays a factor. And I guess also the early socialization period.
Yes. And that's the other thing, because it's not just genetics, it's also that early socialization, which is something that really now changes my dialogue with my clients, which is especially those that purchase dogs. I'm telling them to please have standards for their purchase, even though they've already made the purchase, but it's also just to give them a realistic expectation, because they try to compare their dogs to the dogs they see on TikTok, on Instagram. And they say, hey, why isn't my dog like that? And I say, did you get the parentage that is exactly like that dog you're seeing on Instagram?
Right.
And by the way, are you living with that dog on Instagram? Should I know about another dog?
You're
Or
just
only seeing,
guessing.
you're just guessing. You're only seeing 30 seconds tops of somebody's training. Anyone can make their dog look real cool for 30 seconds.
But what happens when the
So
camera turns off?
what happens when the camera turns off? That's right. And so this is where I think it's that education is a big part of my approach to training, which is, and it also, I feel, because my approach mainly and my customer base is client base are people who are millennials who have big emotions. And so there's a lot of empathy and a lot of guilt that people carry. They always think that their dog is the way they are because of that.
Right.
And I want to remove that element because it's not always because of you. And look, now you're getting help. So let's focus on the fact that you're getting help now. And you couldn't have found me, or you couldn't have found a trainer like me unless you really tried to do the research, right?
Yeah.
And even if you found a different kind of trainer and you tried and it didn't work, no one blames you, because even to be this certified trainer, it took me such a deep dive into the internet. With most of the clients that I work with, they have a lot of accountability, and they take too much accountability at times for their dog's behavior. Oh, this reactivity is my fault. And I like to change that conversation to, let's look at this more holistically. And Brownie is the reason why I was able to look at things more holistically. It's genetic. It's, yes, maybe there are some learned behaviors here, but was it learned by Brownie himself, or was it learned by the parent and never unlearned when the parent gave birth to Brownie?
Right. And then again, those first couple of weeks are so impactful. And we know that ethical high standard breeders are doing a lot of really intentional work during those key first 4 to 6 weeks, even up to about 10 weeks. But when we have a big old question mark, we can assume that it was probably not that. We don't want to make too many leaps and bound assumptions of what it could have been, but we can assume what it wasn't.
Exactly.
And it probably wasn't puppy culture.
Exactly. And I feel like this knowledge really tremendously alleviates a lot of like baggage emotions. And so then we can focus on what's important, which is what we need to do to get to where we need to get to.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Okay, Jacqueline, is there anything else you would like the listeners to know about you or what you do?
So basically, right now, I would say I specialize, like you said, very aptly, is I specialize in mixed breed dogs and complex dogs. Because why I say complex is because a lot of things that is shared online can be suitable for certain type of temperaments. But when we're dealing with a complex dog with big emotions, I can give you an example. One of my clients, Maya, so she is a very complex dog in a sense of when you enter her house, she's very barky, showing teeth. And at one point, we were doing the desensitization to get her to see me as a positive element. So we're just throwing treats, giving her a lot of snacks. At one point, what happened was she started a chain behavior of barking, and then she gets a treat. Then this is a certain complexity an owner may not realize. And I saw it. I was like, you're barking at me
because
to
it's
get a
not
treat.
every dog that's going to realize that by offering an inappropriate behavior, and again, like you said, they pick up on that chain of behaviors.
Yeah. So it was
Herding dogs, they're always playing chess while we're playing checkers.
absolutely. So interestingly, you mentioned herding. So yes, she is a Vietnamese ridgeback. So yeah, a type of hunting fishing dog. Yeah. So very driven. So I would say I want to tell people, like, don't feel ashamed when you're going to a trainer, someone who feels ashamed going to a therapist, because no one expects you to figure it all out on your own. You have your day-to-day job, trying to keep food on the table, trying to give your dog the best life that they can. And so when you're working with a certified trainer, expect that trainer should give you a lot of empathy, a lot of space, right? And this is something I also want to share with other trainers out there. Like, methodologies are great and all, but let's focus on the emotional state of the handler as well. And I think this is something even I had the wrong misconception on, which is I thought dog training means training dogs.
Not really.
Not well, hardly. I would say most of the time I'm there for the people, and I know regrets. 1 second. It's something I found that if you told me when I was working in corporate that I would be doing, I'd be like, huh? But if you now, I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of the people that I'm working with to help their dog build that understanding and bond with their dog. And it's just so incredible to watch them overcome even a lot of their own anxieties and baggages and seeing that reflected in their dog as well. But then again, being very clear, it's not because of those anxieties that led your dog to those behaviors. It's not letting it go is what can actually lead it to become worse or escalate. So really, I want people to understand just one thing. It's just working with a trainer is needs to not have the stigma, oh, it's only when my dog has a problem, right? And I love this. There's some equestrian that told me once that when you get a new horse, I don't know, do you know anything about horses, Mattison?
Small to medium amount, but not a large amount.
Same here. Mine is probably like way less. So I just remember this quote from equestrian I had a conversation with, and he told me that whenever you get a new horse, no matter what, you get a trainer in. It doesn't wait for the issue to happen. And on the flip side, what I want other people to know, or at least other trainers to know, is that really don't be afraid to get vulnerable and be closer to the client that you're working with emotionally, and don't focus so much on, oh, you have to follow this method to the T, because not everyone is out there seeking to have competition dogs. They're just seeking to have harmonious understanding with their dog. And sometimes it does not mean doing every single thing on your checklist and you're bombarding them. Hey, checking in today, checking in 7 days a week. And that is putting a lot of pressure. And we don't want that. We want to give as much grace that we would give to our dogs as we would give to people too. And I'm laughing saying that because it sounds ridiculous, but also it has to be said too, you know?
Be said. We have really unfair expectations for our dogs, I think, more often than not. And by shifting those expectations to be more of a compromise and more in line with natural dog behavior, I think we as humans would be a lot less frustrated.
For sure. And I really think that Zena gave me my Zena gave me a real good drill start experience of
She said, you're going to learn today.
You're going to be humbled. You're going to taste this humble pie and you're going to love it. And every time I think I'm making progress with her and she barks at a person, like, so how do you feel about that? She looks, and I just think about, then the next day, my reactive client tells me, oh, my dog had a trigger. And I'm like, I can relate.
So Zena is really your forever lesson. She's just going to keep showing up and showing you lessons that are going to translate really well to your work.
For sure. And I think, it's a beautiful way to, and this is something I just realized this year as well, which is that now I realize that she's going to be that forever lesson. And it's a beautiful thing. And I think that is something that it will really alleviate a lot of concerns and pain and anxiety for people out there who are dealing with their sensitive dogs. And if you guys need any help with your sensitive mixed breed shelter dog, you know who to call.
Absolutely. You can connect with Jacqueline on Instagram at Patty Pawsitive, and you can find more information and a link to her work in the show notes. Thanks for joining us in the world of Dog Training Bytes, where every challenge brings a lesson worth sinking our teeth into. See you next time. Dog Training Bytes was created, produced, and edited by Mattison Simpson. You can connect with me on Instagram at Dog Training Bytes, that's BYTES, and at Freed by Training. For information on today's guest and resources for help with your dog or dog training education, visit www.dogtrainingbytes.stream. Looking for more? Listen to my other show, Unpacked, a clinical dog training podcast co-hosted by Sailor Jerry the dog trainer and produced by Straight Up Dog Talk, LLC.